Ono Kouhei. It's a name you'll find on most do not search lists, but rather than covering it there, I figured I'd look at it here as this is one of the OG internet mysteries as well. It's simple yet confusing, with a long history that has ultimately never been solved. So, let's break it down bit by bit, and have a look at just who Ono Kouhei is, or was, and why that name is so famous as a forbidden search term. To start, we have to go back over 2 decades, all the way back to 2004, in fact. Here, we can find a thread posted on Ni Channel on March 26th at 2 minutes before midnight. Titled simply, Ono Kouhei, the first post stated, "This thread explores the truth behind the excessive number of mysterious sites titled Ono Kouhei." This was then followed by numerous links to geocities and tripod websites. If you're old enough, like me, to remember those, it's time to take some aspirin and get to bed. So, as this post tells us right away, Ono Kouhei, a person's name, by the way, is related to numerous sites. So many, in fact, that as I'm sitting here in the future researching it, I've seen estimates of over 150 or so. Whoever Kouhei was, it seemed he just kept creating them over and over, and being that most of them are very old, they're sadly no longer viewable today. But many have been archived, so we can still get a glimpse into the madness. And madness is perhaps the best way to sum these websites up. While it's difficult to tell which website went up first, they have apparently been around since at least December 2001. Let's take a look at this one, perhaps one of the shortest sites we can still see today. If we roughly translate this one, we have, "I'm not crazy. I didn't make the dog bark. I didn't let the dog on the veranda. I didn't make my parents cry. I'm not smart. I don't skip school. I'm only quiet when I'm asleep. I'm not shirane trash." This is followed by an address in Kanagawa, the name Ono Kouhei, and the words, in English, "I love Yokohama. I love Shirane." Shirane, it should be noted, is a town in Yokohama City, Kanagawa Prefecture. Now, let's look at another one. Is Kouhei from Shirane sick? Does Kouhei from Shirane suddenly go crazy? Does Kouhei from Shirane recover from seizures with a needle? Is Kouhei from Shirane addicted to drugs? Does Kouhei from Shirane act violently when his parents aren't looking? Does Kouhei from Shirane intend to kill his parents too? Does Kouhei from Shirane make his dog bark? Was Kouhei from Shirane bitten? Did Kouhei from Shirane bleed a lot? This page has a lot. I could go on and on, but you get the picture. Again, this one ends with the same address in Shirane. And then, is Shirane's Ono Kouhei trash from Shirane? So, from these 2 sites alone, we can paint a somewhat vague picture. We have Ono Kouhei, apparently from Shirane in Yokohama, who, it seems, isn't doing very well. He refers a lot to losing his mind, acting violently, refutes skipping school and making his parents upset, and there's a lot of mention of a barking dog on a veranda that may or may not have bitten people, including Kouhei himself. He also constantly refers to himself as Kouhei from Shirane, and repeatedly expresses his love for the town. But that isn't where the mystery ends. These pages, if you scroll, have a lot of white space. But it's not just white space. If you highlight them, you'll find the rest of the pages are actually full of text too. On one particular page, you can find the names of numerous schools, mixed in with utterly random words like restaurant, health, game, large pond, etc. Almost like someone just typed in whatever came to mind. Then, at the bottom, there's a massive copy-paste of random English sentences. I tried looking for these in various search engines, but this was the only site that gave me hits, so if it was copied from somewhere, that site no longer exists. Searching for Rose Boccio, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, brings up a freelance journalist, however, and the text talks about a real pet grooming and training kennel in Illinois, so I'm thinking this was a newspaper article at some point in the late 1990s or early 2000s that he copied. If anyone has any knowledge of this, however, feel free to let me know in the comments. Now, if you're wondering about the Shirane address in Yokohama, naturally, people already looked that up in public records to see if an Ono Kouhei lived there at the time, or at any time previously. However, records going all the way back to the 1970s showed no Ono family living there. The family registered as living there uses a single kanji for their last name, and if you look at the house on Google Maps, you can also see the nameplate on the front also has just a single kanji. It would appear Ono Kouhei, if a real person to begin with, has never lived there, but what that kanji is has never been publicized. You know, so as not to dox the people actually living there. So, in a way, we just have to take their word for this one. I personally don't have access to the public Shirane housing records. Let's look at another website. Sorry for letting the dog on the veranda. Sorry for making him bark. But I'm not the one in the wrong. Sorry for making the neighborhood dogs bark too. But I'm not the one in the wrong. Sorry for always being in the house. But I'm not a truant. Sorry for concealing the veranda with cardboard. But now they can't see me from below. Sorry about the yellow car. But I'm not crazy. Sorry for not listening to my parents. But I'm a very good boy. Sorry I moved to Shirane, but I don't have anywhere else to live. It then ends with a korekara mo yoroshiku ne, which is kind of awkward to translate, but amounts to something like, let's continue to get along. I look forward to continuing our relationship in a pleasant manner. That sort of thing. So from this website, again, we have more about Kouhei, apparently a student, not going to school and remaining in the house, perhaps as a hikikomori. There is also more about the barking dog, which is of course a big no-no in Japan, a land that very much values quiet and not disturbing your neighbors. He also mentions not listening to his parents, and for the first time mentions moving to Shirane because he has nowhere else to live. So it would seem Kouhei wasn't actually born there, but moved there. Perhaps after troubles at a previous school, or maybe for his parents' work. Either way, he very much loves Shirane and considers it his home. As an interesting translation note, when he mentions sorry about the yellow car, but I'm not crazy, this could be a reference to an old urban legend that states people with mental problems would be taken away in a yellow ambulance. That's why he's apologizing for it, but also claiming that no, he's not crazy. This doesn't really vibe with him covering his veranda in cardboard so they can't see him from below, but let's take his word for it. If you highlight the white space on this one, again we get random words. But interestingly, this one ends with a lot of dog-related names and terms. And then finally, Ono. But let's take a look at one more site for good measure. Sorry for letting the dog bark. Sorry for so much noise. But I'm not crazy. There's a difference between madness and psychosis. I don't have to be hospitalized. I have a lot of money. I even have 2 cars. I'm not stingy. I'm not Shirane trash. I'm definitely not crazy. I'm a very good boy. This site gives us yet another tiny bit of Ono Kouhei lore that's not mentioned on the others. Apparently he, or his family, is rich. So rich, they even have 2 cars. Imagine it. Interestingly, this website doesn't have white space that you can highlight at the end, but rather the words Ono Kouhei over and over that link to this website. Fonte. This was an NPO newspaper that started in 1998, focused on school truancy. Make of that what you will. Now, let's head back to Ni Channel and that original thread. The second post ever so helpfully sums up the information known about this mystery at the time. 1. Ono Kouhei appears to be someone mentally unwell. 2. He's a student, but doesn't appear to go to school and isn't in the hospital either. 3. His family is well off with 2 cars. 4. He has a dog that he lets bark on the veranda. 5. His parents believe that he'll get better and haven't put him in a hospital or another similar type of establishment because of that. The post then gives a few reasons why people at the time thought these websites might exist. 1. His neighbours actually made them because he was such a nuisance that they basically wanted to publicise what was going on to get back at him. 2. It was either Kouhei's parents or perhaps even Kouhei himself trying to get his point of view out there. 3. It was all completely made up and designed on purpose to get the likes of Ni channelers, who loved these types of mysteries, going. It should be noted here that numerous people at the time reported getting spyware or even viruses from some of these websites, which alone might go a very long way to explaining what they were. Several users in the thread also reported that they lived nearby and went to check the house out and indeed saw 2 cars. But again, that's not really proof of much. Now, Ni channelers love a good mystery, and if you're a regular of this series, you'll know the lengths some of them will go to in order to uncover the truth. Naturally, many of them wanted to get to the bottom of these bizarre websites, and a sort of Ni channel task force got to work in early 2004 to uncover anything they could. Here's some of what they uncovered. Many of the school names, bus stops, and other locations listed on these pages were real. Remember, these websites went up in early 2001. You couldn't just open Google Maps to find locations. It was much harder back then, especially for smaller things like bus stops or local elementary schools. Several websites also listed a phone number, but that number appeared to be fake. The address, however, was real, as we've covered, and the head of the family was listed as O. Here's where it gets a little confusing. Remember how I stated earlier that people had looked up records for the house and discovered that going back to the 70s, no one by the name of Ono was registered as owning the house? Well, according to the Ni channel researchers back in 2004, the previous head of the house, believed to be the grandfather, gave the house to his son in 2001, and ownership had been formally transferred. The nameplate on the front of the house also had O on it. Not literally O, but this is Ni channel doing their best not to dox. Other than that, visitors to the house claimed there were 5 dog stickers on the front door, confirming the dog part of the story, and photos confirmed a black dog on the veranda as well. I was unfortunately unable to find those photos now, but I'll take their word for it. Those same people also reported 2 cars in the driveway, and interestingly, one of them was indeed yellow. They also confirmed over 150 sites had been created by that point, but at the time of posting, only 40 still remained. The English was also confirmed to be a copy-paste from a foreign website at the time. So again, I'm guessing that was a newspaper article published at the time that was sadly lost to the annals of the internet. Now, despite all this information, they were ultimately unable to confirm whether Ono Kouhei himself was a real person or not. If he really was, and was only a teenager at the time, this isn't terribly surprising. It was the early 2000s after all. Some reports claimed that he was indeed a high school student who was enrolled, but never went due to his mental illness. But he wasn't attending the hospital or seeing any doctors either. His father was also reportedly a police officer, and his grandparents were dead. But none of these facts were ever confirmed. They remained rumours. They were also unable to confirm whether noise complaints had ever been made in the area regarding the dogs, and asking around only got answers of, "I've never heard of any noise complaints," or "Most families keep dogs, and we've never had any trouble with barking around here." There was one resident, however, who reportedly said, "I heard there was some trouble with the neighbours, but I didn't pay much attention to it." So with all of that in mind, where does the truth lie? Just what exactly were these websites? And was Ono Kouhei even a real person to begin with? Well, as I said at the start of the video, this is one of those mysteries that has never officially been solved. To this day, we just don't know. There were, however, 3 main possibilities. 1. Ono Kouhei was indeed a real person, suffering from a mental illness, who created these websites. The facts were simply as they appeared, and he himself created all these sites with his fractured state of mind based on reality as he knew it. 2. Everything was fake. Often this is the actual answer, especially when it comes to nichannel. But it's also important to remember that these websites started going up at least around 2001, and they had a lot of local information that would have been hard to know at the time unless you lived in that area. Not to mention they got the dogs and 2 cars, 1 yellow, right. It could still very well have been fake, yes, but it would have been much harder to create then than it would be now. But it's also important to remember that several of the sites and even message boards related to this mystery at the time reportedly infected people's computers with viruses and spyware, so that fits in well here too. And finally, 3. A sort of in-between answer. Maybe it was someone specifically targeting the family who lived there by doxing them online. Perhaps because they were indeed annoyed by the dogs and they were hoping to harass them by sending nichannel detectives or other such people their way. In which case, they were certainly successful. Maybe Kouhei was a real person, and they cruelly used him to harass the family online. Or maybe he didn't exist, and they made it all up just to harass the family they had a beef with. But what do you guys think about this one? Solving this mystery was all the rage back in the day, but ultimately we still don't have 100% proven definitive answers as to what was going on. Were the websites created by a troll, or several trolls, latching onto the craze? Was it created by the man himself, Ono Kouhei, and giving us a look into his unwell mind? Or was it someone targeting the family who lived at this address because they really didn't like their barking dogs? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.